Good afternoon, it's Kate here, your content alchemist, with some content gold on a Wednesday lunchtime. We're into week 2 of our series on giving insights to you on different types of content. So last week we spoke to Luke from Clout Media all about how to make the most of media. And now we're actually going to be talking to an expert in a very different kind of a field. My guest today is Esther Harris from Inkwell. Esther, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon, Kate. I'm very well. How are you?
Brilliant, brilliant. Feeling great. So tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
Okay, so I'm Esther Harris. I have a lovely little company called Inkwell. I do writing, editing, proofreading, and I write lots of blogs for people, their web content, and I love to communicate.
Great. So today the topic is indeed communication, which is just really. Communication surely is quite easy. It's about talking, yes?
Actually, it isn't just about talking. I think the most important thing that we need to realise when we do communicate, and that's especially when we communicate face to face, is that we're actually listening to what the other person is saying. Mm-hmm. Quite often there's a really good quote by Stephen R. Covey that says most people don't listen with the intent to understand, they listen to with the intent to reply. So you have a lot of communication where one person's speaking, they're waiting for a gap, and then the other person's speaking, and actually nobody's actually listening to what each other is saying. And I think the most important thing you can do as an effective communicator is to actually listen to what the other person is saying. Because if there are problems with the person and what they're saying, if they're coming to you with problems that they need to voice, to listen to them is one of the most important things you can do, because they feel heard. Mm-hmm. So they've got a genuine need to speak to you. If they feel that they're being heard, those problems quite often they don't need a solution to that. So sometimes, say for instance, a boss, you'll go to speak to your boss, and the boss will be solution based. He'll be thinking about the boss, he or she will be thinking about, how can I fix this? How can I get on with my day? How can I do this? But actually, just to listen to that employee or the contractor, quite often you can come together and you can work together on that solution. The same thing applies. I'm a member of a community of parents who we all have additional needs children, and my son is autistic. Mm-hmm. And quite often they find that with professionals as well, schools, any other agencies that are involved with that child's care or education, that those professionals want to give them solutions, and with the best will in the world they want to help and they want to care for that person, that family. They want to look after and find solutions. But actually, as parents, quite often we do have those solutions. We just want to talk. We just want to be listened to, and we want to be heard, because quite a lot of the things that we have to say, we're experts in the field anyway. So to be listened to is, well, it's an act of love, you know, without being schmaltzy or romantic. It's showing that person who's talking that you respect them and you respect their views.
So how does that translate when we're talking about content in a business sense? How would you translate that sort of skill of listening into, I'm talking to a client or I'm talking to a prospect? Yeah.
Well, in terms of how I work, how I really get the best out of a client. So say, for instance, I'm doing a blog series for them, say a blog of 500, 600 words. The most important thing for me is to get to know who I'm writing for. So the person, it's going to go up on their Facebook page, it's going to go on their LinkedIn account. I need to know what their voice sounds like, and not just, you know, how I hear it. Mm-hmm. It's how they speak, it's how they come across to their own clients as well. Now, if I did it from my own point of view, I'm not always necessarily an expert, but if I have all their knowledge and I download their knowledge, that informs me to how I write. So I write as much as possible in their voice.
Right.
And the important thing then is for me to listen to them when they have that blog to look over the first draft of it, and listen to how they're saying this isn't right or this is right. And the communication needs to be open and honest.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I have a client who's saying, yeah, it's fine, I don't always believe them, because, you know, I'm not, they're the expert. When I have to do a lot of research, and I appreciate their expertise, and I'll download that. But if on the first draft they're saying it's absolutely fine, yeah, it does kind of worry me a little bit. In terms of dealing with clients, I think that I can't bang on about it enough. The most important thing is that you listen to exactly what they want. Because you always come up with the solutions together. You always come up with it. Quite often I've given a client what I thought was a really good piece of work or a really good project. And they haven't said, you know, we haven't got a detailed design brief or anything like that. And they haven't said, they keep saying things like, well, I don't really know what I want. But if you give them something, they will know what they don't want. So sometimes you have to kind of listen that way as well. So you give them a product, or you give them a service, and they'll come back and say, actually, it's not what I want. And that's the most important thing as well, to listen, to go, okay, well, this is my product, but if you're not happy with that, to listen to what they've got, because then you've got a client or a customer for life if you're listening to exactly what they've got, rather than, you know, this packaged thing that you give them. There you are, that's yours. And if it's not quite right, you know, you're not reaching your ideal customers.
Right. So it's about, I mean, in the case of, you know, if you're selling a product or something like that, it could be as simple as saying, well, I think this might be the solution you're telling me you want, but then not worrying if they then come back and say, yeah, but not quite.
Yeah, that's kind of
allowing them that opportunity to express it in a different way, and therefore you can listen again.
Yes, it's that kind of softness in the communication, rather, this is what I've got and this is what I'm offering. Because you can always tweak something to suit a client. You can always do that, and like I said, you've got a client or a customer for life if you offer them exactly what they want.
And how do you go about listening in words and pictures? Because obviously listening seems to presume that you are talking face to face or on the phone. What about when you're in words or pictures? How would it work then? What are the kinds of things to look out for?
So when you're listening in words and pictures, so do you mean like your client is giving you words and pictures to look at?
We're looking at how these sorts of skills translate into content. So if someone is, for example, writing a web page, how in words do you express a message of, I'm someone who's going to listen, rather than just, here's my solution? Yes.
So quite often websites will say, da-da, this is me, this is what I offer. And to a certain extent, that's, some customers just do want that. They want to be told what they need. But there are other discerning customers who do actually want to be listened to. So I think the most important thing is, before you put a website up, before you put any content up, is that you actually go and listen to your clients, your potential clients, as to what they want.
Right.
And that might be met with, actually, I don't know what I want. So I think it's a little bit of both, that you offer something, but you're prepared then to change that when you get feedback. I think feedback is the most important thing, especially when you're setting up a business, that you actually go and do your market research, which actually doesn't have to be hard. It can be very simple. You can even talk to your friends, you know, you can talk to people that you've worked with before, just to find out exactly, because quite often when you're starting up a business, it's all in here. It's all up in your head, and you're constantly thinking, well, this is going to work. I'm an expert in this, I'm an expert in that. But if you can't communicate what you're offering, I think that then becomes difficult. When you've got potentially really good business idea but can't communicate that becomes very difficult. So it's passing it by people, it's talking, it's, you know, getting huge pieces of paper out, doing spider graphs, you know, dumping everything down, and you'll eventually find out you know, really what your clients do want.
Great. And I often find, so one of the ways that I find when I'm working with clients, it's a great way of getting of kind of communicating and getting good results is about finding where the common points are, a kind of
Yes.
seeking that alignment. And are there techniques and tips that people can use to actually get you to a position where you're aligning with somebody else?
I think quite often when you want to do that and you want to align with people, and this is in all my experiences with parents of children with additional needs and the work that I do in communication and the work that I do with Inkwell. I think often when we think about those points of contact, I think quite often we override it with, oh yes, that happened to me, and yes, that I know exactly what you mean, this, that, and I think sometimes then that person doesn't feel, although you're trying to have that connection, that person then doesn't feel like they're being listened to. So it is a dance. It is a merry dance of you showing that you have that expertise, but not actually dumping it on them and saying, yes, I know exactly what you mean and this is what you want, or I've had that experience too and this is what I did. It is all of that listening. It's all of the toing and froing and just being very mindful of what that person is saying. And that can be really difficult. But if you start off the conversation in an honest and open way, the communication can be really effective, because you can say things like, so often in communication, we're backwards and forwards and we're bouncing ideas off each other, and it's really good. But I think one of the most important things that we can do is, at some point, is we can pause and we can say, give me a minute, I just need to download that. That's a really good idea, I'll place that. And you can always come back. You can always say, I need some time to think about this. Can we have another conversation? You know, can I come and listen to you again? Or if you feel that you've done all the listening, you've written down all the ideas or the problems, then you can say, I'm going to think about this and I'm going to get back to you. Brilliant. We're so often wanting that solution, aren't we? And getting the clients and getting the work and all that kind of stuff. But if we really value our customers, if we really value our clients, then doing that, I think, is very, very valuable.
Brilliant. Esther, thank you very much for that. That's been really, really fantastic. I just love the idea of it being a dance.
Yes. Yes.
I now have a tango in my head. I actually have Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis doing a tango in my head, but that's because that's nice. So Esther, tell me, how can people find out more about you and about the work you do with Inkwell?
Well, I'm developing a website at the moment that's called esthermary.com.
Right.
And you will be able to find information about Inkwell there as well. And you'll be able to find out about information that I do, the work that I do with parents who have children with additional needs and their families, and how they can best communicate with professionals.
Brilliant. So for the meantime, I'll put the link to your website in the show notes for this. And obviously, if people go to that site, they're obviously going to find it under construction at the moment. If people need to reach out to Esther, they can always come directly through Creative Words at the moment, and I can put them in touch if you'd like to talk to Esther and Inkwell about everything that she's talked about here today. So Esther, thank you very much for your time today.
You're very welcome.
Next week, I am going to be talking to the amazing Joda Rosa of Quantum Sobriety, who has been blogging every single day for probably a couple of years now. So that she's around about blog number 600 or something like that. And she's going to talk about her experiences of blogging. So that will be next Wednesday. So as I said last week, we're doing broadcasts every week from now until Christmas. Next Wednesday at 1:30 as well. In the meantime, if you know of anyone who wants to know more about content, who might want to get more about communication, more information from what Creative Words can do, then share this, tag them in the post, or otherwise let them know, send them in the direction of our Facebook page. And for now, have a golden afternoon.